Well, good morning, lads and lasses and non-binary folk. How are we all feeling today? Oh, goodness. Ah, it's a cold morning here in Australia. Goodness. Shivering. Oh, goodness gracious. All that tea has given me too much energy. You all ready for some poetry? Good morning, Cardbox. Good to see you here. You all ready for some poetry? Short stories, perhaps, if I can find somebody in the Macquarie Pen Anthology of Australian Literature, edited by General, I don't know, Nicholas Joes. So, hello, Tiberian. Hello, hello. Everyone feeling, well, actually it would be evening for you, wouldn't it be, Tiberian? 9:20 in the morning for me. Well, 9:18, but same difference, I suppose. What's everyone's poison for today? Mine? A cup of Russian caravan tea. Black tea by Twinings. How's everyone? Everyone drinking teas and coffees? Oh, you got peppermint tea, that's a nice one. I've been looking at this mango tea from T2 that has mango and mint in it. An iced tea, and I think, we're heading into summer. An iced tea would be a good one. I have this big jug I can make iced tea with. Good. That water bottle. Wonder where the bloody thing had gone. Lost my water bottle, and then I look up. It's next to all my alcohol on top of my shelf. Might drink some water later. Good choice. Water's always a good choice. Yes. Today. Well, we'll be winging it a bit today. Follow some advice from my last stream. Slow down a bit when I'm reading some of these poems. Perhaps enunciate better. But we will be starting today with probably the most goodness gracious, how am I going to read poetry if I can't even say one sentence? The most famous Australian poem. The Man from Snowy River. And then we'll move on to one called Kangaroo. I'll read you a bit about that one once we get to it. But if there's anything you want me to read, or you want to hear read, well, even a meme that you think is funny that I should read, do give me a sign. There's no fun without a bit of interaction. And this devolves into a free talk. That's, I suppose, the way the cookie crumbles. But yes. Shall we get started? You all ready? Relaxed? Quite relaxing for you. Americans, where it's getting to night, or the other people where it's nighttime, you can treat this as a bedtime story. Get to bed early today. Just gotta make sure that I'm probably hear the book. Read Kipling's Just So story about the origin of the kangaroo? Certainly, if I can find it. Yep. I found it. But that will be on the list. Thank you, Tiberian. I might read that one too. But yes, quite nervous about this sort of thing, but I'm fine usually once I get into it. Heard that one on tape as a child, but I've never heard it read by an authentic Aussie. I know of that one. When I started reading the first line, I've definitely seen this one before. Ooh. Gives me the Flesh Kincaid's reading level. It's an American thing, isn't it? Hmm. Yeah. Silence. Bloody. Lighten up the deep motion thing. Yeah. Now, with that out of the way, let's begin with Australia's most famous poem. Banjo Paterson, the most famous poet from Australia. What's his actual name? Andrew Barton Paterson. The man from Snowy River. There was movement at the station, for the word had passed around that the colt from Old Regret had gone away, and had joined the wild bush horses. He was worth £1,000. So all the cracks had gathered to the fray. All the tried and noted riders from stations near and far had mustered at the homestead overnight. For the bushmen love hard riding, where the wild bush horses are, and the stock horses snuff the battle with delight. There was Harrison, who made his pile when Pardon won the cup, the old man with his hair as white as snow. But few could ride beside him when his blood was fairly up. He would go wherever a horse and man could go. And Clancy of the Overflow came down to lend a hand. No better horseman ever held the reins. For never horse could throw him while the saddle girths would stand. He learnt to ride while droving on the plains. And there was one, a stripling on the small and weedy beast. He was something like a racehorse, undersized, with a touch of time or pony, 3 parts thoroughbred at least, and such as are by mountain horsemen prized. He was hard and tough and wiry, just the sort that won't say die. There was courage in his quick, impatient tread, and he bore the badge of gameness in his bright and fiery eye, and the proud and lofty carriage of his head. But still so slight and weedy, one would doubt his power to stay, and the old man said, that horse will never do. For a long and tiring gallop, lad, you'd better stop away. Those hills are far too rough for such as you. So we waited, sad and wistful, only Clancy stood his friend. I think we ought to let him come, he said. I'd warrant he'll be with us when he's wanted at the end, for both his horse and he are mountain bred. He hails from Snowy River, up by Kosciuszko's side, where the hills are twice as steep and twice as rough. Where a horse's hoofs strike firelight from the flintstones every stride, the man that holds his own is good enough. And the Snowy River riders on the mountains make their home, where rivers run those giant hills between. I have seen full many horsemen since I first commenced to roam, but nowhere yet such horsemen have I seen. So we went, they found the horses by the big mimosa clump, they raced away towards the mountain's brow. And the old man gave his orders, boys go at them from the jump. No use to try for fancy riding now. And Clancy, you must wheel them. Try and wheel them right to the right. Ride boldly, lad, and never fear the spills. For never yet was rider that could keep the mob in sight, if once they gained the shelter of those hills. So Clancy rode to wheel them. He was racing on the wing, where the best and boldest riders take their place. And he raced his stock horse past them, and he made the rangers ring with the stockwhip as he met them face to face. Then they halted for a moment, while he swung the dreaded lash, but they saw their well-loved mountain in full view. And they charged beneath the stockwhip with a sharp and sudden dash, and off into the mountain scrub they flew. Then fast the horsemen followed, where gorges deep and black resounded to the thunder of their tread. And the stockwhip woke the echoes, and they fiercely answered back, from cliffs and crags that beetled overhead. And upward, ever upward, the wild horses held their way where mountain ash and kurrajong grew wide. And the old man muttered fiercely, "We may bid the mob good day, no man can hold them down the other side." When they reached the mountain summit, even Clancy took a pull. It well might make the boldest hold their breath. The wild hop scrub grew thickly, and the hidden ground was full of wombat holes, and any slip was death. But the man from Snowy River let the pony have his head, and he swung his stoppick round and gave a cheer, and raced him down the mountain like a torrent down its bed, while the others stood and watched in very fear. He sent the flintstones flying, but the pony kept his feet. He cleared the fallen timber in his stride, and the man from Snowy River never shifted in his seat. It was grand to see that mountain horseman ride. The stringy barks and saplings on the rough and broken ground, down the hillside at a racing pace he went. And he never drew the bridle till he landed safe and sound at the bottom of that terrible descent. He was right among the horses as they climbed the further hill, and the watchers on the mountain standing mute saw him ply the stockwhip fiercely. He was right among them still as he raced across the clearing in pursuit. Then they lost him for a moment, where the two mountain gullies meet, and the ranges but a final glimpse reveals. On a dim and distant hillside, the wild horses racing yet, with the man from Snowy River at their heels. And he ran them single-handed till their sides were white with foam, and he followed like a bloodhound on their track, till they halted and cowed and beated. Then he turned their heads for home, and alone and unassisted brought them back. But his hardy mountain pony, he could scarcely raise a trot. He was blood from hip to shoulder from the spur, but his pluck was still undaunted, and his courage fiery hot, for never yet was a mountain horse a cur. Down by Kosciuszko, where the pine-clad ridges raise their torn and rugged battlements on high, where the air is clear as crystal, and the white stars fairly blaze at midnight in the cold and frosty sky, and where around the overflow the reed beds sweep and sway to the breezes and the rolling plains are wide. The man from Snowy River is a household word today, and the stockmen tell the story of his ride. And so ends the first poem. Do tell me if there's any problems with how I'm speaking. Should I slow down, speed up, try and enunciate things more? But otherwise, how did we all enjoy that? That is, I only got through a few mistakes there. It's been a while since I've read that one, probably 10, 15 years. So, that was good. Thank you. Wonderful. It's a fun one, that. It is in a finger snapper mode. I'll just make the sound myself. There we are. I don't know if you heard that. Yes. It's a good one. I really love that. Kosciuszko. I do love hearing. Some names are nostalgic. Just very nostalgic. I need to travel to Kosciuszko again one day. Grab tea. So nostalgic. So very nostalgic. Start singing Waltzing Matilda. That was done by Banjo Patterson as well. Very, very famous. Hey. The next page. Let me read yours. Not a coffee man? No, I'm a tea man. Never had much patience for coffee. Coffee. I've been able to make it, and I can run a coffee machine very well enough, but I don't know, it just doesn't mix well with my stomach. I always tried it when I was younger, but I was doing early, terrible shifts at various places. All it did was make me feel miserable. My stomach was always upset by coffee. Like I was gassy the whole day I felt bloated and quite terrible. And it never even woke me up, it just made me feel miserable. I could taste coffee all day. So I stuck to tea. I didn't like tea when I was younger, but in my late teens, early 20s, I learned how to appreciate a black tea. So, Russian Caravan, good tea. Another good tea. There's some fair good ones. A lot of the T2 ones are quite fun. They're very sweet though, so if you're not a fan of sweet tea, you won't like them. Well, let's go. The Sing-Song of Old Man Kangaroo. My desktop. They decided to. Okay, got it. Wonderful. The Sing-Song of Old Man Kangaroo by, well, the Just So Stories by Rudyard Kipling. The Flesh Kincaid level of this is 4.5, so grade 4 or 5. About halfway through grade 4. For you Americans out there? Means if you're in grade 4, you should be able to read this. Now, let's begin. Not always was the kangaroo as now we do behold him, but a different animal, with 4 short legs. He was grey, and he was woolly, and his pride was inordinate. He danced on an outcrop in the middle of Australia, and he went to the little god Nuck. He went to Nuck at 6 before breakfast, saying, "Make me a different from all the other animals by 5 this afternoon." Up jumped Nuck from his seat on the sand float and shouted, "Go away!" He was grey and he was woolly, and his pride was inordinate, and he danced on the rock ledge in the middle of Australia. And he went up to the middle god, Nucking. He went to Nucking at 8 after breakfast, saying, "Make me different from all the other animals. Make me also wonderfully popular by 5 this afternoon." Up jumped Nucking from his burrow in the spinifex and shouted, "Go away!" He was grey, he was woolly, and his pride was inordinate, and he danced on a sandbank in the middle of Australia. And he went to the big god, Nucking. He went to Kong at 10 before dinner time, saying, "Make me different from all the other animals. Make me popular and wonderfully run after by 5 this afternoon." Up jumped Nucking from his bath in the salt pan and shouted, "Yes, I will." Nucking called Dingo, yellow dog Dingo, always hungry, dusty in the sunshine, and showed him Kangaroo. Nucking said, "Dingo, wake up, Dingo. You see that gentleman dancing on the ash pit? He wants to be popular, and very truly run after. Dingo, make him so." Up jumped Dingo, the yellow dog Dingo, and said, What? That cat rabbit?" Off ran Dingo, yellow dog Dingo, always hungry, grinning like a coal scuttle, ran after Kangaroo. Off went the proud Kangaroo on his 4 little legs like a bunny. This, O beloved of mine, ends the first part of the tale. He ran through the desert, he ran through the mountains, he ran through the salt pans, and he ran through the reed beds, he ran through the blue gums, he ran through the spinifex, he ran till his front legs ached. He had to. Still ran Dingo, yellow dog Dingo, always hungry, grinning like a rat trap, never getting nearer, never getting farther, ran after Kangaroo. He had to. Still ran Kangaroo, old man Kangaroo. He ran through the ti trees, he ran through the mulga, he ran through the long grass, he ran through the short grass, he ran through the tropics of Capricorn and Cancer. He ran until his hind legs ached. He had to. Still ran the Dingo, yellow dog Dingo, hungrier and hungrier, grinning like a horse collar, never getting nearer, never getting farther, till they came to Wollongong River. Now, there wasn't any bridge, there wasn't any ferry boat, and Kangaroo didn't know how to get over, so he stood on his legs and hopped. He had to. He hopped through the flinders. He hopped through the cinders. He hopped through the deserts in the middle of Australia. He hopped like a kangaroo. First he hopped 1 yard, then he hopped 3 yards, then he hopped 5 yards, his legs growing stronger, his legs growing longer. He hadn't any time for rest or refreshment, and he wanted them very much. Still ran Dingo, yellow dog Dingo, very much bewildered, very much hungry, and wondering what in the world or made out of it old mango what in the world of out of it made the old man kangaroo hop. For he hopped like a cricket, like a pea in a saucepan, or a new rubber ball on a nursery floor. He had to. Tucked up his front legs, he hopped on his hind legs. He tucked out his tail for a balanced weight behind him, and he hopped through the Darling Downs. He had to. Still ran Kingo, tired dog Dingo, hungrier and hungrier, very much bewildered, wondering when in the world, or out of it, old man kangaroo stopped. Then old Ngong came from his bath in the salt pans and said, "It's 5 o'clock." Down sat Dingo, poor dog Dingo, always hungry, dusty in the sunshine, hung out his tongue and howled. Down sat Kangaroo, old man Kangaroo, stuck out his tail like a milking stool behind him, and said, "Thank goodness that's finished." Then Nong said, who was always a gentleman, Why aren't you grateful to Yellow Dog Dingo? Why don't you thank him for all he has done for you?" Then said Kangaroo, tired old Kangaroo, "He's chased me out of the homes of my childhood. He's chased me out of my regular meal times. He's altered my shape so I'll never get it back. And he's played Old Scratch with my legs." Then Nong said, "Perhaps I'm mistaken, but didn't you ask me to make you different from all the other animals, as well as make you very truly sought after? And it is now 5 o'clock." "Yes," said Kangaroo. I wish I hadn't. I thought you would do it by charms and incantations. This is a practical joke." "Joke," said Nanko from his bath in the blue gums. "Say that again, I'll whistle up a dingo and run your hind legs off." "No," said the Kangaroo, "I must apologize. Legs are legs, and you needn't alter them so far as I'm concerned. I only meant to explain to your lordliness that I've had nothing to eat since this morning, and I am very empty indeed." "Yes," said Dingo, Yellow Dog Dingo, "I'm just in the same situation. I've made him different from all the other animals. But what may I have for my tea?" Then Singong said from his bath in the salt pan, "Come and ask me about it tomorrow, 'cause I'm going to wash." They were left, in the middle of Australia, an old man Kangaroo and Yellow Dog Dingo, and each said, "It's your fault." I hope I did a good rendition. How did everyone like that? Goodness, that was a bit more difficult to say. I probably pronounced those terribly. Very nice story, it is quite fun. Definitely Australian in its vibe. Wish I'd remember that those names were in it. Probably butchered the pronunciation. Haven't heard that one before. I've heard of it before, and I think I read it quite a while ago. Remember this one. I don't know where, but I didn't remember the names. It's good. Speaking of kangaroos, perhaps we should talk about kangaroos. Let's see. I have a few more on this. From one kangaroo to another kangaroo. It's a very funny one, actually. Where the hell did I put that? Oh. How long was Kippy in Australia? No, I don't know how long he was in Australia. That's the thing about a lot of those fellows. Probably have to look it up. He's quite famous. Oh, he was born in India. Mumbai. Fun. Well, that explains the Jungle Book, I suppose. But yeah. No, I don't know how long he was here. I've read a few of his stuff before. Everyone has, they're quite famous, but... Where the hell did I... Let's go to Kangaroo. There we are. There's a simple poem called Kangaroo, written by Baron Field, an Englishman. Of course it was. Back in, when did he write this one? I can't remember. Who knows? Probably around 1820. It was essentially about how confused he was. Speaking of the strange form of the kangaroo, he was incredibly confused by its shape and its form. So, I don't know if there's anything interesting. There is some interesting themes in this one, so just remember that it was written almost 200 years ago now. Kangaroo. This is Kangaroo by Baron Field. Kangaroo. Kangaroo. Kipling explained it for him, yes. Thou spirit of Australia, that redeems from utter failure, from perfect desolation, and warrants the creation of this fifth part of the earth, which would seem an afterbirth, not conceived in the beginning, for God blessed his work at first, and saw it was good, that it was good, but emerged at the first sinning, when the ground was therefore cursed, and hence this barren wood. A very high opinion of Australia, clearly. Kangaroo, kangaroo, though at first sight we should say, in thy nature, that where may contradiction be involved, yet like discord, well resolved, is quickly harmonized. Sphinx or mermaid realized, or centaur unfabulous, would scarce be more prodigious. Or labyrinthine minotaur, which great Theseus did war, or Pegasus poetical, or hippogriff, chimeras all. But what nature would compile, nature knows to reconcile. And wisdom ever at her side, of all her children justified. She had made the squirrel fragile, she had made the bounding hart, but a third so strong and agile was beyond even nature's art. So she joined the former two, in thee, the kangaroo. To scribe thee it is hard, converse of the camelopard, which beginneth camel-wise, but endeth of the panther size. Therefore half, it would appear, had belonged to some small deer, such as liveth in a tree. By thy hinder thou should be a large animal of chase, bounding o'er the forest pace, joined by some divine mistake, none but nature's hand can make, nature in a wisdom's play, on creation's holiday. For howsoever anomalous, thou yet art not incongruous, repugnant or preposterous, but a proportioned animal, or graceful or ethereal, was never followed by the hound, with 50 steps to thy one bound. Thou cannot be amended, no, be as thou art best so. When sooty swans are once more rare, and dark moles the museum's care, be still the glory of this land, happiest work of finest hand. Very short one, that one. Quite nice though, isn't it? He started with a fairly negative opinion of kangaroos at the beginning of that poem, and ended with a fairly nice opinion of them. Isn't it good? On Creation's Holiday, that's a very good one. But when you do think about it, a kangaroo is sort of chimera-like if you look at each part of the creature. It does feel strangely like something out of a fairy tale. When you grow up with them, you don't really realise how strange they look. Reading this guy's explanation of what he thinks it's made out of is quite an amusing little prospect. Sit there going, wow, what ungodly mistake created this creature? The answer is, not God, evolution, but, you know. Such is the strangeness of the Australian wildlife. God forbid Baron Field came across a platypus. Reminds me of the old bestiaries where they thought cotton was lambs growing on a plant. Wouldn't that be convenient? At least then the cotton farmers who steal all the bloody water down at the Darling Downs would actually have an excuse, because they're both making cotton and making lamb. But unfortunately, no. They're just stealing water. Make a t-shirt that says, "I came to Sydney and all I bought was this lousy t-shirt." Ooh, political. But yes. Should read some of those old bestiaries. Maybe we should go find them and start reading them out. Any more suggestions for anyone? I have a few more poems lined up already. Another one from Banjo Patterson, The Amateur Writer. It'll be a bit difficult to read first time around, but you know. Yes, it's always so much funner than I expect. Very nostalgic for me, but this is very fun. Stories, perhaps. Should look through this for a bit more. No more. That would just be naming stories I read, not necessarily stories I think you should read in a stream. That is true. Let me jump into another poem I found this morning. It's from the same anthology. Based in a place I used to live. Quite a few years ago. Moreton Bay. In Brisbane. One of the capital cities of the States. One of the capital cities of Queensland. One of the States' capitals. Moreton Bay is quite nice. There's quite a few wonderful islands. You've got Moreton Island and St. Helena, which used to be a leper colony. That was good fun. I should go down there sometime. Visit the islands. Go to the sand dunes. Stratty. Nice place. If you want to go anywhere, I wouldn't recommend Sydney. Sydney's fine, and if you're a tourist, I suppose it's great. Coming to Australia, really. Queensland, you can't beat it. Can't beat Queensland if you want beaches and rainforests. Giant meter and a half, 2 meter tall monster birds called cassowaries. Yes. This is written by somebody. Nobody actually quite knows who, this poem. It's also called The Convict's Lament or Moreton Bay. Leningrad versus the Ants? No, I haven't actually. I don't even think that name's familiar to me. For some reason. Yes, The Convict's Lament or Moreton Bay. Nobody knows who it was written by. Nobody knows when it was written. Except for it was around when it was after when the penal colony in Moreton Bay was established. 1824. So sometime after that. Quite a dramatic one. This particular version was written down by this one was published by Jack Bradshaw in 1899. Am I gay? I'm not too sure. Who knows if they are? I am almost entirely sure I'm not. But considering I'm a lifelong bachelor, it's hard to say. Good to have a new name here, though. Any versions? Yes. Let's go with this one. Moreton Bay. By Anonymous, or maybe Frank the Poet. Who knows? I am a native of the land of Erin, and lately banished from that lovely shore. I left behind me my aged parents, and the girl I adore. In transit storms as I set sailing, like a bold mariner my coast did steer. Sydney Harbour was my destination, that cursed harbour at length draw near. I then joined banquet in congratulation on my safe arrival from the briny sea. But alas, alas, I was mistaken. 12 years transported to Moreton Bay. Early one morning, as I carelessly wandered, by the Brisbane waters I chanced to stray. I saw a prisoner sadly bewailing. while on the sunbeaming banks he lay. He said, "I have been a prisoner at Port Macquarie, at Norfolk Island and Emu Plain, at Castle Hill and cursed Town Gabby, and at all those places I've worked in chains. But of all the places of condemnation, in each penal station of New South Wales, Moreton Bay I found no equal, for excessive tyranny each day prevails. Early in the morning, as the day is dawning, to trace from heaven the morning dew, up we are started at the moment's warning, our daily labour for to renew. Our overseers and superintendents, all these cursed tyrants' language we must obey, or else at the triangles of our flesh is mangled, for that is our wages at Moreton Bay. For 3 long years I've waited, I've been beastly treated, heavy islands each day I wore, my poor back from the flogging has been lacerated, and oft times painted with crimson gore. Like the Egyptians or the ancient Hebrews, we were sorely oppressed by Logan's yoke, till kind Providence came to our assistance, and gave this tyrant his final stroke. Yes, he was hurried from that place of bondage, where he thought he would gain renown, but a native black, who lay in ambush, gave this monster a fatal wound. Now that I have got once more to cross the ocean, and leave this place called Moreton Bay, where many a man from downright starvation lies mouldering today beneath the clay. Fellow prisoners, be exhilarated, for your former sufferings don't bear in mind, for when it's from bondage you extricated, we will leave those tyrants far behind. Quite a dramatic one, isn't it? Not a fun story, that's for sure, but that's what happens when you treat a whole country as a giant prison colony. Bit hard to say the bad apples ruined the whole bunch. This was a Victorian era penal colony, it's never going to be any good. Maybe we should have something fun. Your family came later, right? Yes. Goodness, when would have my family? It would have... I think it was before the turn of the century. My family came to Australia. At least one branch of my family, I believe, came close to the turn of the century, perhaps before the turn of the century. No, it was definitely before the turn of the century. They came willingly, though. They didn't come as a prisoner. They were... Well, the one I know of was, I think, from a well-off merchant family up in England. And he ran away to Australia. Bought some, managed to acquire some sugarcane farms, which are still in the family to this day. So, yes, up in North Queensland, there's a few sugarcane farms that are still in our family. A couple of first and second cousins own them currently. He was yes, that ancestor of ours. Alien versus the ants. Yes, he was supposed to go to Sydney for something. He was sent by the family for being a troublemaker to Sydney, I believe. And he just jumped boat at North Queensland. I don't know where it was, Townsville, some such, around that area. He just jumped boat and disappeared into the bush. Managed to acquire himself some land, and the rest was history. I'm not actually that far separated from... Because of the strangely large generational gap in our family, I think only my... good God, I think my grandfather was born before the turn of the century, the 19th century. They were born in the 19th century, that's how old and how large the gaps are in our family. My mother's family runs a honey farm. Ours was sugarcane farms. Still are. Most of that area of North Queensland is just sugarcane as far as the eye can see. Something nostalgic about those sugarcane fields. I'd forgotten about that one. That is a very... The Burnham Declaration. If you have some time, look up the Burnham Declaration. I might get around to reading it, but I don't want to pronounce all the words wrong. It's got a lot of the native Aboriginal words in it, and even though all of our towns use those words, it's not always very easy to figure out how it's pronounced. This is the end. Short story by Carl Stevens. Ooh, that's quite the story. Well, I'll keep that there. See if I can read this one. I'm very tempted to read the Burnham Declaration. It's it's terrible, but it is hilarious in a way. Might be a bit too long. Yes, that's true. Might be a tad long. Might be a tad. Wow, this guy wrote a lot of poems. But it is Les Murray. He was famous for that. Let me give another one by Banjo Patterson. The Amateur Rider. Let's see if I can read this one without too many mistakes, eh? Amateur Rider by Banjo Patterson. Him going to ride for us. Him with the pants and the eyeglasses and all. Amateur, don't he just look it? It's 21 to 1 on a fall. Boss must be gone off his head to be sending our steeplechase crack. Out over fences like these, with an object like that on his back. Ride! Don't tell me he can ride. With his pants just as loose as balloons. How can he sit on his horse? And his spurs like a pair of harpoons? Ought to be under the dogger, he ought. Be kept off the course. Fall! Why, he'd fall off a cart, let alone fall off a steeplechase horse. Yes, sir, the horse is all ready. I wish you'd rode him before. Nothing like knowing your horse, sir. And this chap's a terror to bore. Battle axe always could pull, and he rushes his fences like fun. Stand off his jump at 20 feet, and then springs like a shot from a gun. Oh, we can jump him all right, sir. You make no mistake, he's a toff. Clouts him in earnest, too, sometimes. You mind that he don't clout you off. Don't seem to mind how he hits him. He shins as hard as a nail. Sometimes you'll see the fence shake, and the splinters fly up from the rail. All you can do is to hold him, and just let him jump as he likes. Give him his head at the fences, and hang on like death if he strikes. Don't let him run himself out. You can lie third or fourth in the race, until you clear the stone wall, and from that you can put on the pace. Fell at that wall once, he did, and gave him a regular spread. Ever since that time he flies it. He'll stop if you pull at his head. Just let him race, you can trust him. He'll take first class care if he don't fall. I think that's the lot, but remember, he must have his head at the wall. Well, he's down, safe, as far as the start, and he seems to sit on a pretty neat. Only his baggified breeches would ruinate anyone's seat. They're away, here they come, the first fence, and he's head over heels for a crown. Good for the new chum, he's over, and the two of the others are down. Now for the treble, me hearty. By Jove, he can ride, after all. Whoop, whoop, that's your sort, let him fly. He hasn't much fear of a fall. Who in the world would have thought it? And aren't they just going apace? Little recruit in the lead, there will make it a stoutly run race. Lord! They're racing in earnest, and down goes the recruit on his head. Rolling clean over his boy. It's a miracle he ain't dead. Battle axe yet. By the Lord, he's got most of 'em beat. Oh, did you see how he struck? And the swell never moved in his seat. Second time round, and by jingo, he's holding his leaderman well. Hark to him clouting the timber. Don't seem the trouble will swell. Now, for the wall, let him rush it. A 30-foot leap, I declare. Never shift in his seat, and he's racing for home like a hare. What's that that's chasing him? Rataplan, regular demon to stay. Sit down and ride for your life now. Oh good, that's the style, come away. Rataplan's certain to beat you, unless you can give him the slip. Sit down and rub the whalebone now. Give him the spurs and the whip. Battle axe yet. And it's battle axe wins for a crown. Look at him rushing the fences. He wants to bring the other chap down. Rataplan will never catch him, if only he keeps on his pins. Now, the last fence, and he's over it! Battle axe, he wins. Well, sir, you rode him just perfect. I knew from the first you could ride. Some of the chaps said you couldn't, and I say, they said, and one side, mark me, I says, that's a tradesman. The saddle is where you was bred. Wait, you're all right, sir, and thank you. And them were the words that I said. Fun. You like that one? Nobody thought he could ride. There he was. Fun with the best of them. Good fun. Quite a few people have wandered through this stream. It's a shame none have given me any recommendations. That was something I was thinking of doing. I'm gonna look something up. I was just remembering monologues. Maybe I should read some Shakespearean monologues. Unless there's any other poems you can think of. A few, I think. There's a couple of famous ones. Les Murray is a fairly famous fellow. Critical acclaim. He was, could share some American culture at Casey at the Bat. Casey at the Bat. I'm assuming it's Casey. Casey at the Bat. By Ernest Lawrence Thayer. I'll read it with you. Massachusetts. Any fun facts you could give me about this one? Yes. Fine. What that LEO fellow want? Ah well. Not really. I just liked it as a child. Fair enough. Let's see if I actually pronounce everything correctly. I'm sure you'll tell me if I did it wrong. I assume this is a poem about baseball? Baseball isn't very popular in Australia, so... Let me see. Alright. Casey at the Bat. Written by Ernest Lawrence Thayer. I really liked the name Ernest back then. I was recently reading a autobiography by an Ernest Thomas Seton. A Canadian? Naturalist. Fun times. Very good writer. The outlook wasn't brilliant for the Mudville 9 that day. The score stood 4-2, with but one inning more to play. And then when Cooney died at first, and Barrows did the same, back when baseball was still new, a pall-like silence fell upon the patrons of the game. A straggling few got up to go in deep despair. The rest clung to the hope which springs eternal in the all-human breast. They thought, only Casey could but get a whack at that. We'd put up even more money now, with Casey at the bat. But Flynn preceded Casey, as did also Jimmy Blake, and the former was a hoodoo, while the latter was a cake. So upon that stricken multitude grim melancholy sat, for there seemed to be but little chance of Casey getting to bat. But Flynn let drive a single, to the wonderment of all, and Blake, the much despised, tore the cover off the ball. And when the dust had lifted, and men saw what had occurred, there was Jimmy safe at second, and Flynn a huggin' third. Then from 5,000 throats and more there rose a lusty yell. It rumbled through the valley, it rattled in the dell, it pounded on the mountain, and recoiled upon the flat. For Casey, mighty Casey, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Casey's manner, as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Casey's bearing, and a smile lit Casey's face. And when, responding to the cheers, he lightly doffed his hat, no stranger in the crowd could doubt 'twas Casey at the bat. 10,000 eyes were on him, as he rubbed his hands with dirt. 5,000 tongues applauded when he wiped them on his shirt. Then while the writhing pitcher ground the ball into his hip, defiance flashed in Casey's eyes, and a sneer curled Casey's lip. And now the leather-covered sphere came hurtling through the air, and Casey stood watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by the sturdy batman, the ball unheeded sped. "That ain't my style," said Casey. "Strike one," the umpire said. From the benches, black with people, there went up a muffled roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. "Kill him! Kill the umpire!" shouted someone in his stand, and it's likely they'd have killed him had not Casey raised his hand. With a smile of Christian charity, great Casey visage shone. He stilled the rising tumult, and bade the game go on. He signalled to the picture, and once more the dun sphere flew. But Casey still ignored it, and the umpire said, "Strike two!" "Fraud!" cried the maddened thousands, and echo answered, "Fraud!" But one scornful look from Casey, and the audience was awed. They saw his face grow stern and cold, they saw his muscles strain, and they knew that Casey wouldn't let that ball go by again. Morning, Natsuki. The sneer is gone from Casey's lip, his teeth are clenched in hate. He pounds with cruel violence his bat upon the plate. And now the pitcher holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Casey's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favoured land the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Mudfield. The mighty Casey has struck out. Oh, hello, Natsuki and Panda. It's been a while, Panda. What have you walked into? Well, have you read the bloody title? Right. An old man said he was doing a free talk, but instead he's boring you with poetry and memes. It's all in the title. That was a good one. I really quite enjoyed that one, Tiberian. You feeling joy? That's good. How are you feeling, Natsuki and Panda? Good to see you back. Oh, I know how Natsuki's feeling. How are you feeling, Panda? It's been a while. I'm just reading poetry. Nostalgia's sake, really. I really quite enjoy it. You know what I'm really tempted to do is read The Old Mariner again. The Ancient Mariner again. I just love that poem. I guess it doesn't work as well if you don't know how to play baseball. Well, I enjoyed reading it. It's quite a fun one to read out loud. There's a lot of very easy emotion you can put into it. So it's very easy. Mighty Casey has struck out. That sort of thing. Yeah, I don't read poetry. It makes me sleepy. Well, it's nighttime over there. This can be a bedtime story, Panda. Can have an early night. Or you can come back later and watch the video on demand. It's only 8 PM. Oh, an hour away from bedtime. Start winding down. Don't they say it's not good to have any screens shining in your eyes after 9 PM? Otherwise it'll disturb your sleep. Poetry doesn't make me sleepy. I always get very energetic. Ah! But yes. Oh, hello, Daniel. Greetings to you too. Good to see a new face. But just here reading poetry. What memes do you read? Well, whatever meme you want me to read. I say meme, but you know, the same, some sort of readable meme. I don't know what I'm not very well versed with memes. I have just read a few before. So give me some, if you want me to read some. I'll put it up. I've just never had anyone actually ask. I just put meme in the title. These nuts? Oh dear. Is that the one? Haha, got him. God, I sound old. Wonder why is everyone showing up now? Don't know, it's 10 o'clock. Everyone, just after 10. Maybe everyone's decided it's time. I really love poetry. In fact, they say music is just like poetry, to be honest. Well, a lot of music tends to rhyme, and a lot of lyricists tend to have a style similar to poetry. This is the time where I ain't streaming at 4 AM. Yes, it's true. Actually, funnily enough, I have more consistent viewership at the 4 AM streams than I do at these streams, because in these streams I'm competing with larger people. I tend to compete with bigger names at this time, because all the big streamers tend to use this time to stream as well. So it's a bit more difficult. Apparently Wednesday is quite good for me. Maybe I should keep doing it on Wednesday morning instead of Tuesday. Yes, the only times I've had 0 people watching has been at, well, for me, 10 AM on a Tuesday. I've had 0 people watching. It's very strange. It's competition, I suppose. Now. But yes, any favourite poetry that you want me to read, Daniel? Considering you have... Any musical styles you love to listen to, Eric? Ooh. There are quite a few songs. There's a few old Celtic songs that I love listening to over and over again. Denny Boy, that sort of thing. Playing Fallout 4 a bit. Waiting for Far Cry 6 to come out already. Isn't that the problem? Why can't it just be out now? Why can't time suddenly accelerate for the 2 weeks until the thing I want to read or watch comes out? But yes. Yeah, musical styles I like to listen to. I do really like... For a more modern artist, people who like their lyrics more, something like... What's his name? Passenger. That fellow I really like, and his style. But other than that, it's older songs that I have nostalgia for, like... Most of the songs sung by Johnny Cash and what's his name? Frank Sinatra. Not a great man, but a great singer. Or maybe is, I don't know, it's opinionated, I suppose. Songs like Denny Boy, Minstrel Boy, Bonnie Banks, those sort of old Celtic tunes, Londonderry Air, The Last Rose of Summer. And the band played Waltzing Matilda, favourite of mine. I'm really into that sort of thing. So folk and older folk stuff. Not too sure what to call Passenger. Johnny Test. I remember the poem that says like this: "Don't blame the messenger." Can't remember the name of the poem. Well, I love castle music. There are some good classical tunes. I've always been a fan of, as pretentious as this sounds, the 1812 Overture by Tchaikovsky. And Tchaikovsky's Swan Lake. I do like that one too. And for a more, it's moderner, I suppose, 20th century, I think. The Planets by Holst. Planets by Holst. Holst. Most people know Holst's planet for Jupiter, I believe. The bringer of jollity. Yes, it is 20th century. Ulster's very good. Oh, what's the other one? Blue Done by Waltz and Moonlight Sonata are always good. Depends who plays them, at least, I suppose. There's a few jazz musicians I also really like. Because I have a soft spot for jazz and jazz-like things, and also Australian things. Which is why I like more strange bands, like Cat Empire is really charming. They have very fun lyrics. Quite jazzy. These days they aren't anymore, but I do like Cat Empire. Brad Maldell's a good jazz player. My favourite classical musical style is choral music. Ah, yes. Goodness. Choral music always gives me terrible, terrible memories of being forced to go to churches and having to listen to choirs singing the, well, church music. Some of it's quite nice and quite beautiful, but most church music I have a fairly terrible opinion of. Ah, yes. Daft Punk, I even know of those people. The stronger, faster, better fellows, isn't it? What have they been doing recently? Can't say I've kept up with them. They're electronic, aren't they? They broke up? Oh, did they? That's a shame. Daft Punk is a French house, to be correct. Ah, I see. It was a whole event on the internet. Oh, I live under a rock, I suppose. When did it happen? What year? Was it recently, or a long time ago? Oh, English. Illness in... Pretty recent, yeah. Oh, I missed it, I guess. I haven't even been told by my music-loving nieces and nephews about that. Usually mention something like that. Well, I guess they don't like Daft Punk much. 6 months ago. Clearly they don't like Daft Punk much. William Shakespeare. Old Billy Wobblestick. I know that name for Shakespeare, Billy Wobblestick. That's what my old teacher always used to call it when I used to have to study Shakespeare back in... Oh, God. Way too young. God, Shakespeare. God. Why was I doing Shakespeare when I was 11? Grammar schools will always confuse me. I got a call, what are we discussing? Well, we were talking about music. And that Daft Punk apparently broke up, I didn't know that. While I'm looking at things to try and look at. Something to read. I'm very tempted to do Henry V's monologue from King Henry by Shakespeare. But I'd have to go, that hath not noble lustre in your eyes, I see you like greyhounds in the slips. Once more unto the breach, dear friends, once more. Probably my favourite Shakespeare quote. That and A Rose by Any Other Name. We're talking about breakdancing on the floor with his grandpa. Well, you know, if my bones can stand the weight of my body. My physio these days is saying they can't. Bloody back pains. Ah, yes. It's been a long time coming, but I finally went to the bloody doctor for all the back pain I've had for genuine decades at this point. Turns out I had a swollen disc in my lower back, which is not a surprise, but it's been there for quite some time, and the doctors are very annoyed that I didn't go earlier. So I have to bloody go to a physio. My physio said I should have taken better care of myself, and frankly. Goodness. I don't think I could break dance unless your breakdancing is much more literal. Or I break after dancing. The Secret Life of... Ah, yes, The Secret Life of Walter Mitty. That is... Fortunately, I've only ever watched the movie. I've never actually read the book. Not a bad movie, actually. Where is that? There's a very funny poem. It's a short story. Oh. Important to take care of yourself. Just take your time and take it easy. Wow. Not long at all. I don't know how they made a bloody movie out of it, then. Ultimate-y. I think I might have known it was a short story at one point. Problem about these sort of things. It is a short story, but I don't think, unless I had the book, I don't think I'd be able to actually read it. Unless, perhaps... Oh, good God, is it that old? Oh, okay. It is for free online. How long is it? Oh, it isn't that long at all. Keep it on the line. The rabbit-proof fence? Quite famous. I've read a really funny one. They always make up their own ending in Hollywood. I can barely remember. Tempted to read one of these. I don't know if you'd be able to understand them, they're so heavily accented, some of those, but there is a very funny one about a larrikin. It's very funny. Well, I find it funny. The Play, that's what it's called. The Play by C.J. Dennis. To be or not to be, that's the question. Shilling Shakespeare. That is quite the film. To be or not to be, so that is the question. Whether it is nobler as a mind, or suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous. Is that right? Be or not to be, whether 'tis nobler in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or to take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end. The heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to, is a consummation, devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance, to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death what dreams may come. And the true endings is he bombs the Statue of Liberty and says Krakatoa, then explodes. The end. Goodness gracious, that's dramatic. Ah, old Krakatoa. You don't have any volcanoes in Australia. Speaking of Krakatoa, that's nearby. It's north of Australia, I believe, Krakatoa. But we don't actually have any active volcanoes, if I remember correctly. I don't think we do, at least. We may have one. It's tiny and miserable. Very funny thing about Australia, we're so boring when it comes to natural disasters. Well, boring when it comes to those sort of disasters. Volcanoes. They're rare in Australia because, yeah, we're not anywhere close to anything. That's a complete... I've just gone on a tangent from your comment, Panda Knives, but yes. Get typhoons, yes, we call them cyclones. How about underwater volcanoes? I'm not too sure. I don't think they count them in Australia. We honestly aren't... If you look at the tectonic plate, Australia is quite far away from the tectonic plate. If I remember correctly. Yes, we're in, like, north of us, near Indonesia and the like, and Papua New Guinea. There is a line, but Australia itself is almost dead center of its current tectonic plate, so we barely even get earthquakes. We got an earthquake in Western Australia a year or two ago, but... Yes. Instead of terrible natural disasters like that, we have giant spiders. And kangaroos. And bloody cassowaries. Looks like in Puerto Rico, my country, it's going to be a cloudy night. Hell. Looking out the window, here it's quite sunny and nice. Oh, and forest fires, yes. Forgot about those. Like infernos. Really, Dante was writing poems about them. Dante's Inferno, that's a good one. Read all of Dante's Divine Comedy. That'd be multiple streams. That's a good speech. To be or not to be is a very good one. Oh, goodness. Stand up for a moment. Goodness gracious. My tea finished? My tea went cold. Oops. It's a shame. I'm just gonna quickly do to be or not to be, everyone. Because it's all about to be or not to live to be in Australia, I suppose. To be or not to be in Australia. I want to go overseas. To be or not to be, that is the question. Whether it is nobler in mind to suffer the slings and arrows of outrageous fortune, or take up arms against a sea of troubles, and by opposing end them, to die, to sleep, no more, and by a sleep to say we end the heartache and the thousand natural shocks that flesh is heir to. 'Tis a consummation, devoutly to be wished, to die, to sleep perchance to dream. Aye, there's the rub. For in that sleep of death, what dreams may come when we have shuffled off this mortal coil, must give us pause. There is the respect that makes calamity of so long life. For who would bear the whips and scorns of time, the oppressor's wrong, the proud man's contumely, the pangs of disparate love, the law's delay, the insolence of office, and the spurns that patient merit of the unworthy takes? When he himself might his quietus make with a bare bodkin, who would fardels bear, to grunt and sweat under a weary life, but that the dread of something after death, the undiscovered country, from whose bourne no traveller returns, the puzzles the will, and makes us rather bear those ills we have, than fly to others that we know not of. Thus conscience doth make cowards of us all, and thus the native hue of resolution is sicklied over the pale cast of thought, with enterprises of great pith and movement. This regard their currents turn awry, and lose the name of action. It's a good one. It's a bit shorter than the once more into the breach, dear friends, once more. I haven't done many monologues. Been of a long time. I did monologues back when I was younger. I wrote a monologue too. Turned up in the last poetry stream I did a while back, the monologue I wrote. It's a bit embarrassing, but yes. Good. Thank you, Panda. I'm looking at. Now, let's go for the Australian. It was very good poetry indeed, I say. Thank you. Let's go to the other opposite side with that eloquent and beautiful poem. I don't have this accent because it's the older larrikin accent, I suppose. Much less common. You've probably heard it before in comedy series. But this is The Play by C.J. Dennis, from the Songs of a Sentimental Bloke. There's more of these. And they're all about this larrikin, this Australian who's trying to first get his love of his life to love him back. And yes, they go watch a play. This is about this larrikin watching a play with his significant other. I'm not too sure what they are in this one. And it starts, "What's in a name?" she says. And then she sighs, and clasps her little hands and rolls her eyes. "A rose," she says, "be by any other name would smell the same. Oh, wherefore art thou Romeo, young sir? Chuck your old pot and change your moniker. Doreen and me, we been to a show. A swell $2 touch. Bong tong, you know? A chair piece with velvet on the seats. Slap up treat. The dramas writ be Shakespeare years ago. About balmy goat called Romeo. Lady beyond the moon I swear, says he. And then he climbs up on the balcony. And there be smooge a treat with pretty words like two lovebirds. I nudge Doreen, she whispers, ain't it grand? Her eyes are shining. Now squeeze her hand. What's in a name, she says. Struth, I don't know. Ilio's just as good as Romeo. She may be Julia or Juliet. He loves her yet. And she's the tart he wants, and she's his queen. Names never count, but I like Doreen. A sweeter, dearer sound I've never heard. There's music hangs around that little word. Doreen, but what? This I starts to say about the play. I'm off me beat. But when a bloke's in love, his thoughts turn away like omen dove. This Romeo's here lurking with a crew. A dead tough crowd of crooks called Montague. His clienters push what's nicknamed Capulet. They's as 'em set. Fair narcs they are, just like them black backstreet cliques. Except they fight with skewers instead of bricks. What's in a name? What's in a string of words? They scrap an old Verona with their swords. They never give a bloke a stray dog's chance. And that's romance. But when they deals out with bricks and boots, in Little Lawn they're low degraded brutes. What's just plain stout with us right here today is valour if you're far enough away. Sometimes some rider bloke will do the trick with Ginger Mick or Spaggers Lane, L.B. Romeo, when he's been dead 500 years or so. Fair Juliet, she gives her boy the tip. She says, don't sling that crowd of mine no lip. And if you run again a Capulet, just do a git. He swears he's done with lash, he'll chuck it clean, same as I done when I first met Doreen. They smooge some more, and strike me blue. You give me Jones to sit and watch him too. He'd break away and start to say goodbye, and then she'd sigh, "Our Romeo," and get a strangle halt, and hang around him like she feared he'd bolt. Next day, words are gospel cove about, a secret wedding, and they planned it out. He spouts a piece of how he's bewitched, and then they get itched. Now here's a place where I fair get the pip. She's his for keeps, and yet he lets her slip. But he makes he sick, a fair gazob. He's just ghastly on the soulful sob. He'll sigh and stroke and howl a love-struck vow, that silly cow. But when he's got her and spliced and on the straight, he cruels the pitch and tries to kid its fate. Fate me foot, insipid of slope and sang. As he was wet off, is on his honeymoon. I'm his called Mick Curie. They have it to go. And mixed with that push old Capulets, they look for trouble, and it's what they get. A tug named Tybal, cousin to the skirt, sprangs them and makes them start to sling off turd. Next minute, there's a real old ding-dong go. Half round or so, Mick Curio, he gets it in the neck. Rats, he says, and passes in his check. Quite natural, Romeo gets wet as hell. It's you or me, he yowls, and with a yell, plucks Tybal through the gizzard with his sword. How I on guard. Put in the boot, I says, put in the boot. Hush, says Doreen. Shame, says some silly coot. Then Romeo, he don't know what to do. The cops get busy like they always will do, and nose around until he gets blue funk, and does a bunk. They wants his tart to wed some other guy. Strike, she says, I wish I could die. Now here's gospel bloke's fair share shrewd head. Says he, I'll dope ya so they think you're dead. Our tipsy was coming sort, what know a thing or two, and she takes his knockout drops up in her room. They think she snuffed it, and plant her in a tomb. Then things get mixed. Mixed a treat and starts to whirl. Here's Romeo comes back and finds his girl tucked in a little coffin, cold and stiff. Oop. OBS has disconnected. I'm back. Hello. Hello. Where did I stop? Let's start with that one. Then things get mixed with a treat and starts to whirl. Here's Romeo comes back and finds his girl tucked in a little coffin, cold and stiff. Ain't the jiff. He swallows Lysol, throws a fancy fit, head over turkey, and his soul is flit. Then Juliet wakes up and sees him there, turns on the waterworks and a tears in the air. Dear love, she says, I cannot live alone. And with a moan, she grabs his pocket knife and ends her cares. Peanuts or lollies? Says a boy upstairs. There we are. Did any of you understand a bloody word of that? Quite the bloody story, ain't it? Quite full of all that stuff, isn't it? That was quite fun. I probably pronounced some of that slang incorrectly. Goodness, it's quite heavy. He says, mate. Or prodigy, he says, bruh. It's not quite the right accent, but that's the easiest way to get it to sound. What's this one again? Ah, classic The Land of Never Never. Yes. Ah, very fun. There's another few about that are all in that sort of style. You should see the writing. It's just ungodly. You should see how they've written it down. Get it up. Show you guys how they wrote it. You tell me if I'm still disconnected or you can see me still. Not sure what happened about that. The internet dropped out a moment. Play. It's written phonetically, this poem. Quite amusing. Juliet. Juliet. He loves her yet. Very good. Oh goodness. Now where am I looking? Goodness. I'm just giving a thought. I am very, very, very tempted. Very tempted to reread the Tale of the Ancient Mariner. How annoyed will any of you be having to listen to the Tale of the Ancient Mariner again for some of you? The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, I mean, sorry, the Tale of the Ancient. Do tell me. I just love this book, and I love reading out of it. So, do tell me if you don't like me reading it out again. I just recorded the To Be or Not To Be poem. Hopefully I make a song about it. After all, I forgot to say I'm a serious music producer, and I'm a very serious and humble person. Well, my nephew, well, he's not a music producer, but he writes his own stuff, and he's the one that pushed me and helped me along with all of this stuff, helps me with my sound and the like, and originally helped me with my first music stream, which won't be up, because of course I can't keep it up, but he was very helpful. He writes his own music, he plays around. I think the program he uses is Reaper to produce it. He also has a friend that I've met, very crazy hair, has his own studio, very nice. But he does. Music producing is fun. I had an older brother who did. music and sound, such stuff. I wonder what he's doing these days. Oh, it was FL Studio, the 2012 trial version. Yes. I think my nephew got it for a. My nephew got the was it door? Door? Is it called a door? The door he uses, we kind of gave it to him as a Christmas present. So. Yes, the door. Thank you. I'm not very well acquainted with it. I have a audio mixer, an audio interface for these screams. It's an old one. Door, yes. They call them doors. I had the same reaction, Tiberian. I have an old Behringer from 15 years ago that I use for this stream. Looks like a thing that came out of a bloody church. In the back of a church. It even says turn off this. I actually think I did get it from a church. Oh, door, yes. But hey, thought for digital audio work. Yes, Daniel. What have you? You make some nice music. Come find me on Twitter. I'd like to hear some of it. Send it to me. I have a Twitter, so if you want to be able to contact me, that's probably the best place to do it. So I'd be curious to see some of the work. So, if you want to find me, I'm on Twitter. I thought you were saying door with your accent. Nah, door. Yeah, I suppose it is quite accented. Dormite. Dormite. Eric Wilmot. Not many people have seen this, but before I read this tale of the ancient Merida, I am going to pull up the picture of the front cover of the book. Just to have it there. Analog synthesizers are back in style. Yes, mine is... well, it's not quite an analog. I do have an analog interface, though. I found it in the old family. Our family has a communal storage facility down in Brisbane that the whole family puts in, and there's quite a bit of history there, so the kids could move around. The problem is, whenever I log onto Twitter, it doesn't work. Unfortunately, many apologies. I just don't have any other ways for me contacted, that's the problem. But yes, and I found an old audio interface. Give me a moment, I'm going to mute myself and go find the bloody thing. Kind of curious to find it. That's fine, I was just curious to see some of the stuff, if you could contact me, but yeah. I don't know. I'm fine with anything we're doing. Just I'm trying to think of other ways that people can contact me. I guess in the comments, I suppose, if you want to contact me with something. The comments work well enough. Can always work to upload to YouTube. That's true. Tale of the Ancient Mariner. Go find this picture of the bloody ancient man. Beautiful book. I'd put that book. That folder. That one. Screen pictures, there we are. There's this book. A leather-bound book. Very beautiful. Love this book. And I'm going to read this. I might not read it all. You want me to read it all? Or read a bit of it? I know that Tiberian and a few others have heard it already. I did it last time, but I'm thinking to do a better justice this time. I'm just enjoying it. Yeah, that's fair enough. Up to you. Well, first let me go find that audio interface that I remember, or analog audio interface. I'll mute myself for a moment. I'll be back in a moment. I'll make myself invisible so you guys know I'm not here. You can chat amongst yourselves if you so desire. I'm back. Hello, hello. Sorry, make myself visible again. Ooh, mysterious. Yes. Been quite a few people running through this stream every night over the time. Got 22 playbacks over the stream. So at least 22 people have wandered. I found the old thing. Arista video accessories. I think it's from the 90s. A picture of the thing. How am I going to do that? How am I going to take a picture? Wait a moment. My character's going to have a bit of a problem because I'm going to use my camera that I'm using to take a picture. I got quite confused. Goodness, now everything's... I just try and do one thing and everything goes to hell. There we are. Sorry for the shaky picture. And by the way, the picture just looks like that. It is a very shaky picture, sorry about that. My arms aren't as steady as they used to be. Yeah. Don't know why I think keeps disconnecting and reconnecting. There it is. The old analog thing. Point of interest. Also found an old play running order. The Madam Butterfly. Interesting. There's the old mixer. Hide that for a moment. I suppose we shall... This will probably take us till the 2-hour mark, which is usually when I finish up, so... The Tale, The Rime of the Ancient Mariner, by Samuel Taylor Coleridge. The argument is how a ship past the line was driven by storms to the cold country towards the South Pole. and how thence she made her course to the tropical latitude of the great Pacific Ocean, and of the strange things that befell, and in what manner the ancient mariner came back to his own country. So hopefully do it justice this time. Water. Good. Let's go. It is an ancient mariner, and he stoppeth one of three. By lie long grey beard and glittering eye. Now wherefore stoppest thou me? The bridegroom's doors are open wide, and I am next of kin. The guests are met, the feast is set. Mayst hear the merry din. He holds him with his skinny hand. There was a ship, quoth he. Hold off, unhand me, grey-beard loon. Estoons his hand dropped he. He holds him with his glittering eye. The wedding guest stood still, and listens like a 3-year-old child. The mariner's hath his will. The wedding guest sat on a stone. You cannot choose but hear. And thus spake the ancient man, the bright-eyed mariner. The ship was cheered, the harbour cleared. Merrily did we drop, below the kirk, below the hill, below the lighthouse top. The sun came up upon our left, out of the sea came he, and he shone bright, and on the right went down into the sea. Higher, higher and higher every day, till over the mast at noon, the wedding guest here beat his breast, for he heard the loud bassoon. The bride hath paced into the hall, red as rose is she, nodding their heads before her goes the merry minstrelsy. The wedding guest, he beat his breast, yet he cannot choose but hear. Thus spake on that ancient man, the bright-eyed mariner. And now the storm blast came, and he said was tyrannous and strong. He struck out overtaking wings, and chased us south along. With sloping masts and dipping prow, as who pursued with yell and blow, till treads the shadow of his foe, and forward bends his head. The ship drove fast, and loud roared the blast, and southward aye we flew. And now there came both mist and snow, and it grew a wondrous cold, and ice and mast tie came floating by, as green as emerald. And through the drifts the snowy cliffs did send a dismal sheen, nor shapes of men nor beasts we ken, the ice was all between. The ice was there, the ice was there, the ice was all around. It cracked and growled and roared and howled like noises in a swound. At length did cross an albatross, thorough the fog it came, as if it had been a Christian soul, we hailed it in God's name. It ate the food it ne'er ate, ate it food it ne'er eat, and round it flew. The ice did split with a thunderous fit, the helmsman steered us through. And a good south wind sprung up behind, the albatross did follow, and every day, for food or play, came to the mariner's hollow. In mist or cloud, on mast or shroud, it perched for vespers 9, whiles all the nights through smog folk white glimmered the white moon's shine. God save thee, ancient mariner, from the fiends that plague thee thus. Why thus look thou so? With my crossbow I shot the albatross. The sun now rose upon the right. Out of the sea came he, still hid in the mist, and on the left went down into the sea. And the good south wind still blew behind, but no sweet bird did follow, nor any day for food or play came to the mariner's hollow. And I had done a hellish thing, and it would work me in woe. For all averred I had killed the bird that made the breeze to blow. Ah, wretch, they said, the bird to slay that made the breeze to blow. Nor dim nor red like God's own head, the glorious sun upbrist. Then all averred I had killed the bird that brought the fog and mist. 'Twas right, said they, such birds to slay that bring the fog and mist. The fair breeze blew, the white foam flew, the furrow followed free. We were the first that ever burst into that silent sea. Down dropped the breeze, the sails dropped down, 'twas sad as sad could be. We did speak only to break the silence of the sea. All in a hot and copper sky, the bloody sun at noon, right above the mast did it stand, no bigger than the moon. Day after day after day, we struck, nor breath nor motion, as idle as a painted ship upon a painted ocean. Water, water everywhere, and all the boards did shrink. Water, water everywhere, nor any drop to drink. The very deep did rot, O Christ, that ever should this be! Yea, slimy things did crawl with legs upon the slimy sea. About, in reel and rout, the death fires danced at night. The water like a witch's oils burnt green and blue and white. And some in dreams assured were we of spirit that plagued us so. 9 fathoms deep he had followed us from the land and mist of mist and snow, and every tongue through utter drought was withered at the root, could not speak no more than if we had been choked suit. Ah, well a day! What evil looks had I from old and young! Instead of the cross, the albatross about my neck was hung. There passed a weary time, each throat was parched and glazed each eye. A weary time, how glazed each weary eye. When looking westward, I beheld a something in the sky. At first it seemed a little speck, and then it seemed a mist. It moved, and took at last a certain shape I wist. A speck, a mist, a shape I wist, and still it neared and neared. As if it dodged a water sprite, it plunged and tacked and veered. With throats unslacked, with black lips baked, we could not laugh nor wail. Through utter drought, all dumb we stood. I bit my arm, sucked the blood, and cried, "A sail! A sail!" With throats unslacked, with black lips baked, agape they heard me call. Bring mercy! They did for joy grin, and all at once their breath drew in, as they were drinking all. See, I cried, she tacks no more. Hitherto work us wheel. Without a breeze, without a tide, she steadies with an upright keel. The western wave was all aflame, the day was well nigh done. Almost upon the western wave rested the broad, bright sun, when that strange shape dove suddenly betwixt us and the sun. And straight the sun was flecked with bars, heaven's mother send us grace, as through a dungeon grate he peered with a broad and grinning face. Alas, thought I, and my heart beat loud, how fast she nears and nears! Are those her sails that glance in the sun, like restless gossameres? Are those her ribs, which the sun did peer as through a grate? Is that woman all her crew? Is that a death? What a two is death that woman's mate? Her lips were red, her looks were free, her locks were yellow as gold. Her skin was white as leprosy, the nightmare, life and death was she, whose thick man's blood with cold. The naked hull alongside came, and twain the casting dice. The game is won, I've won, quoth she, and whistles thrice. The sun's rim dips, the stars rush out, and at once cried comes the dark. With far heard whisper o'er the sea, off shot the spectre bark. We listened and looked up sideways up. Fear at my heart as at a cup, my life-blood seemed to slip. The stars were dim, and thick the night, the steersman's by faith lamp gleamed white, for the sails did drip, till come above the eastern bar the horned moon with one bright star, within the nether tip. One after one, by the star-dogged moon, too quick for groan or sigh, each turned his face with ghastly pang, and cursed me with his eye. 4 times 50 living men, and I heard not sigh nor groan. With heavy thump, a lifeless lump, they dropped down one by one. Their souls did from their bodies fly, they fled to bliss or woe, and every soul it passed me by, like the whiz. I fear thee, ancient mariner, I fear thy skinny hand, and thou art long and lank and brown as the ribbed sea sand. I fear thee and thy glittering eye, and thy skinny hand so brown. Fear not, thou wedding guest, this body drops not down. Alone, alone, all alone, alone on a wide, wide sea, and never a saint took pity on my soul in agony. The many men so beautiful, and they all dead did lie, and 1,000 slimy things lived on, and so did I. I looked upon the rotting sea and drew my eyes away. I looked upon the rotting deck, and there the dead man lay. I looked to the heaven and tried to pray, but o'er and never a prayer had gushed. A wicked whisper came and made my heart as dry as dust. I closed my lids, kept them closed, and the balls like pulses beat. The sky and the sea, and the sea and the sky lay like dead load on my weary eye, and the dead were at my feet. The cold sweat melted from their limbs, nor rot nor reek did they. The look with which they looked on me had never passed away. An orphan's curse would drag to hell a spirit from on high, but oh, more horrible than that is the curse in a dead man's eye. 7 days, 7 nights, I saw that curse, and yet I could not die. The moving moon went up the sky, and nowhere did abide. Softly she was going up, and a star or two beside. Her beams bemocked the sultry main, like April hoarfrost spread. But where the ship's huge shadow lay, the charmed water burned away a still and awful red. Beyond the shadow of the ship, I watched the water snakes. They moved in tracks of shining white, and when they reared, the elvish light fell off in hoary flakes. Within the shadow of the ship, I watched their rich attire. Blue, glossy green, and velvet black, they coiled and swum, and every track was a flash of golden fire. Oh, happy living things! No tongue their beauty might declare. A spring of love gushed from my heart, and I blessed them unaware. Sure, my kind saint took pity on me, and I blessed them unaware. The self-same moment I could pray, and from my neck so free, the albatross fell off, and sank like lead into the sea. Oh, sleep! It is a gentle thing, beloved from pole to pole. To Mary Queen be the praise be given, she sent the gentle sleep from heaven that slid into my soul. The silly buckets on the deck, that had so long remained, I dreamt that they were filled with dew, and when I woke, it rained. My lips were wet, my throat was cold, my garments were all dank. Sure I had drunken in my dreams, and still my body drank. I moved and could not feel my limbs, I was so light, almost. I thought that I had died in sleep, and was a blessed ghost. And soon I heard a roaring wind, it did not come anear. With its sound it shook the sails, that were so thin and sere. The upper air burst into life, and 100 fireflags sheen. To and fro they hurried about, and to and fro, and in and out, the wan stars danced between. And the coming wind did roar more loud, and the sails did sigh like sedge. And the rain poured down from one dark cloud, the moon was at its edge. The thick black cloud was cleft, and still the moon was at its side. Like water shot from some high crag, the lightning fell with never a jag, a river steep, wide. The loud wind never reached the ship, yet now the ship moved on. Beneath the lightning and the moon, the dead men gave a groan. They groaned, they stirred, and they all uprose, nor spake nor moved their eyes. It had been strange, even in a dream, to see those dead men rise. The helmsman steered, the ship moved on, yet never a breeze up blew. The mariners all gained worked the ropes, where they were wont to do. They raised their limbs like lifeless tools. We were a ghastly crew. The body of my brother's son stood by me knee to knee. The body and I pulled at one rope, but he said naught to me. I fear the ancient mariner. Be calm, thou wedding guest. Was not those souls that fled in pain, which to their corpses came again, but a troop of spirits blessed? For when it dawned, they dropped their arms and clustered round the mast. Sweet sounds rose slowly through their mouths, and from their bodies passed. Around, around flew each sweet sound, and darted to the sun. Slowly the sounds came back again, now mixed in one by one. Sometimes, a dropping from the sky, I heard the skylark sing. Sometimes all little birds that are, and how they fill the sea and air with their sweet jargoning. And now 'twas like all instruments, now like a lonely flute, and now it is an angel's song that makes the heavens be mute. It ceased. The sails made on a pleasant noise till noon, a noise like of a hidden brook in the leafy month of June, that to the sleeping woods all night singeth a quiet tune. Till noon we quietly sailed on, yet never a breeze did breathe. Slowly and smoothly went the ship, moved on from beneath. Under the keel 9 fathoms deep, from the land of mist and snow, the spirit slid, and it was he that made the ship to go. The sails at noon left off their tune, and the ship stood still also. The sun, right up above the mast, had fixed her to the ocean. But in a minute she gained stir, with a short, uneasy motion, backwards and forwards half her length, the short, uneasy motion. And then, like a pouring horse let go, she made a sudden bound. It flung the blood into my head, and I fell into a swound. How long in that fit I lay, I have not to declare. But ere my living life returned, I heard in my soul discern 2 voices in the air. It is he, quoth one. Is this the man, by him who died on cross? With his cruel bow he laid full low the harmless albatross. The spirit who bideth by himself in the land of mist and snow. He loved the bird that loved the man who shot him with his bow. The other was a softer voice, as soft as honeydew. Quoth he, the man hath penance done, and penance more will do. But tell me, speak again, thy soft response renewing. What makes that ship drive on so fast? What is the ocean doing? Still as a slave before his lord, the ocean hath no blast. His great bright eye most silently up to the moon is cast. He may know which way to go, for she guides him sooth or grim. See, brother, see, how graciously she looketh down on him. But why drives on that ship so fast, without wave or wind? The air is cut away before, and closes from behind. Fly, brother, fly, more high, or we shall be belated, for slow and slow that ship will go, when the mariner's trance is abated. I woke, and we were sailing on, as in gentler weather. 'Twas night, calm night, the moon was high, the dead men stood together. All stood on the deck, for a child dungeon fitter, all fixed on me their stony eyes, that in the moon did glitter. The pang, the curse with which they died, had never passed away. I could not draw my eyes from theirs, nor turn them up to pray. And now the spell was snapped, once more I viewed the ocean green, and looked far north, yet little saw of what had else been seen. Like one on that lonesome road doth walk in fear and dread, and having once turned around walks on, and turns no more his head, because he knows a frightful fiend doth close behind him tread. But soon there breathed a wind on me, nor sound nor motion made. Path was not upon the sea, in ripple or in shade. It raised my hair, it fanned my cheek, a meadow gale of spring, mingled strangely with my fears, yet felt like a welcoming. Swiftly, swiftly through the ship, yet she sailed softly too. Sweetly, sweetly blew the breeze, on me alone it blew. Oh, dream of joy, is this indeed the lighthouse atop I see? Is this the hill? Is this the kirk? Is this my own country? We drifted o'er the harbour bar, and with I with sobs did pray, oh, let me be awake, my God, oh, let me sleep away. The harbour bay was clear as glass, so smooth it was strewn, and on that bay the moonlight lay, and the shadow of the moon. The rocks shone bright, the kirk no less, that stands above the rock, the moon that steeped in silentness, the steady weathercock. And the bay was white with silent light, till rising from the same, Many shapes that shadows were, in crimson colours came. At a little distance from the prow, those crimson shadows were. I turned my eyes upon the deck. Oh Christ, what I saw there! Each corse lay flat, lifeless and flat, and by thy holy rood, a man in all light, a seraph man on every corse there stood. This seraph band each waved his hand, it was a heavenly sight. They stood as signals to the land, each one a lovely light. The seraph band each waved his hand, no voice did they impart, no voice, but oh, the silence sank like music on my heart. But soon I heard the dash of oars, I heard the pilot's cheer. My head was turned perforce away, and I saw the boat appear. The pilot and the pilot's boy, I heard them coming fast. Dear Lord in heaven, it was joy the dead man could not blast. I saw a third, I heard his voice, it was the hermit good. He singeth loudly his godly hymns that he makes in the wood. He'll shrieve my soul, he'll wash away the albatross's blood. Water. Thank you. Final part. The hermit good lives in that wood which slopes down to the sea. How loudly his sweet voice he rears, he loves to talk with mariners that come from a far country. He kneels at morn and noon and eve, he hath a cushion plump. It is the moss that wholly hides the rotted old oak stump. The skiff boat neared, I heard them talk, why this is strange, I trow. Where are those lights so many and fair that signal made but now? Strange, by my faith, the hermit said, and they answered not our cheer. The planks look warped, and look those sails, how thin they are and sere. I never aught like them to them, unless perchance it were brown skeletons of leaves that lag my forest brook along, when the ivy tod is heavy with snow, and the owlet whoops the wolves below that eats the she-wolf's young. Dear Lord, it hath a fiendish look, the pilot made reply. I am afeard, push on, said the hermit cheerily. The boat came closer to the ship, but I nor spak nor stirred. The boat came close beneath the ship, and straight with a sound was heard. Under the water it rumbled on, still louder and more dread. It reached the ship, it split the bay, the ship went down like lead. Stunned by that loud, a dreadful sound, which sky and ocean smote, like one that hath been 7 days drowned, my body lay afloat. But swift as dreams myself I found within the pilot's boat. Upon the whirl where sank the ship, the boat spun round and round, and all was still, save that hill was telling of the sound. I moved my lips, the pilot shrieked, and fell down in a fit. The holy hermit raised his eyes and prayed where he did sit. I took the oars, the pilot boy, who now doth crazy go, laughed loud and long, and all the while his eyes went to and fro. Aha, quoth he, full plain to see, the devil knows how to row. And now on all in my own country I stood on the firm land. The hermit stepped forth from the boat, and scarcely could he stand. Oh, shrieve me, holy man. The holy hermit crossed his brow. Say quick, quoth he, I bid thee say, what manner of man art thou? Forthwith this frame of mine was wretched with woeful agony, which forced me to begin my tale, and then it left me free. Since then, at an uncertain hour, the agony returns, and till my ghastly tale is told, this heart within me burns. I pass like night from land to land, I have a strange power of speech. That moment that his face I see, I know the man that must hear me, to him my tale I teach. What loud uproar bursts from that door? The wedding guests are here, but in the garden bower the bride and bridemaids singing are. And hark, the little vesper bell which biddeth me to prayer. O wedding guests, this soul hath been alone on a wide, wide sea. So lonely 'twas that God himself scarce seemed there to be. O sweeter than the marriage feast, 'tis sweeter far to me, to walk together to the kirk with goodly company. To walk together to the kirk, and all together pray, while each to his great Father bends, with old men babes and loving friends, and youths and maidens gay. Farewell, farewell, but this I tell to thee, thou wedding guest. He prayeth well who loveth well, both man and bird and bee. He prayeth best who loveth best, all things both great and small. For the dear God who loveth us, he made us and loveth all. The mariner whose eyes is bright, whose beard is age is hoar, with age is hoar, is gone, and now the wedding guest turned from the bridegroom's door. He went like one that hath been stunned, and is of sense forlorn. A sadder and a wiser man, he rose the morrow morn. And that is the entire rhyme of the Ancient Mariner. I do love it. One day I'll get it through without any mistakes. Goodness, it really puts a number in your throat. How's everyone like that one? A very classic trail, that one. Ah, delicious water. And I'm back. Is there any fire bars being said? I don't know, Panda Knives. If you count as a couple of 100-year-old poem as fire bars, I suppose there are. Very, very good. I feel I wanted to say something after this, but I've forgotten. Ah, well. C'est la vie. Oh. Oh my goodness. My back cracked quite loudly just then. Ah. Yes. Jeez. 2 hours just flies by when I'm speaking poetry. Very fun. I don't know how much you guys enjoy this, but I very much enjoy reading the poetry. It's very fun to me. I really should do this more often, but I'd run out of poetry so quickly. Ugh. Any more poetry? Anyone else wants me to read? I think I might do another just for my fun. I might run the G-Bug Polo Club again. Just for the funsies. Considering I've got quite a few people here. The G-Bung Polo Club. It might be my last poem for today. It'll be all over after that. Ugh. Wow. It's 7. Goodness gracious, how many people have wandered through this damn stream? God, fellas. Well. Easy. Yes. The Tale of the Ancient Mariner is a great one, and this book is the book I have is beautiful. But when was the first time I heard the Tale of the Ancient Mariner? Back in high school, probably. When I was a wee lad. Little ankle biter compared to what I am now. My hair was far less monochrome. It was actually brown. Yes. I once had brown hair, you know. Dark, dark brown hair, but brown hair all the same. It's all very, very good, but you can actually still go to G-Bung, this next poem, G-Bung Polo Club. G-Bung is still a place that exists. Still go to it, it's quite amazing. It is the final poem for today, a bit of comedic and a bit of a reprise from the last one. If those lasses can sing the same songs for all those singing streams they do, I can read the same poems. So, The G-Bung Polo Club by Banjo Patterson. Was somewhere up the country, in a land of rock and scrub, that they formed an institution called the G-Bung Polo Club. They were long and wiry natives from the rugged mountainside, and the horse was never saddled that the G-Bungs couldn't ride. But their style of playing polo was irregular and rash. They had a mighty little science, but a mighty lot of dash. And they played on mountain ponies that were muscular and strong, though their coats were quite unpolished, and their manes and tails were long. And they used to train those ponies within cattle in the scrub. They were demons, were the members of the G-Bung Polo Club. It was somewhere down the country, in a city of smoke and steam, that a polo club existed called the cuff and collar team. As a social institution, 'twas a marvellous success, for the members were distinguished by exclusiveness, dress. They had matty little ponies that were nice and smooth and sleek. Their cultivated owners only rode 'em once a week. So they started up the country in pursuit of sport and fame, for they meant to show the G-Bungs how they ought to play the game. And they took their valets with them just to give them their boots a rub, and they started operations on the G-Bung Polo Club. Now my readers can imagine how the contest ebbed and flowed. When the G-Bung boys got it going, it was time to clear the road. The game was so terrific that ere half the time was gone, a spectator's leg was broken, just from merely looking on. They waddled one another till the plain was strewn with dead, while the score was kept so even that neither got ahead. And the cuff and collar captain, when he tumbled off to die, was the last surviving player, so the game was called a tie. And the captain of the G-Bungs raised him slowly from the ground. Though his wounds were mostly mortal, yet he fiercely gazed around. There was no one to oppose him. All the rest were in a trance, so he scrambled on his ponies for his last expiring chance. For he meant to make an effort to get victory to his side. So he struck at a goal and missed it, and then he tumbled off and died. By old Campus River, where breezes shake the grass, there's a row of little gravestones. Stockmen never pass, for they bear a crude inscription saying, "Stranger, drop a tear. The cuff and collar players and the G-Bung boys lie here." And on misty moonlight evening, while dingoes howl around, you can see their shadows flitting down that phantom polo ground. You can hear the loud collisions as the flying players meet, and the rattle of the mallets and the rush of ponies' feet, till the terrifying spectator rides like blazes to the pub. He's been haunted by the spectres of the G-Bung Polo Club. Oh, good God. Oh, that's so much fun. Such a stupid story. Oh, but it's very good. Imagine playing a game of soccer so intense you murder each other. Now that would be a day. But I say, I believe it's time to lay one's heads down and rest a while. This is the end of your day. Some random poetry off the cuff there. You look at that, turns out I am a poet. That's the phrase I always use, a poet and I didn't know it. But I think we'll end it there. How did everyone enjoy that, for those who are still here? We had quite a few wanderers through this particular stream. Quite amazing. Oh, very fun, very fun. I think we are at the end of our programming. I had very much a lot of fun, and we'll be back at it, I suppose, tomorrow. Yes, it would be tomorrow. Actually, it might be the same day for you fellas. No, it would be tomorrow for you fellas. 7 PM AEST, or 4 AM, or 5 AM Eastern Standard Time. Tomorrow, back to playing Hitman, I believe. Very different from this. Far less poetic. Unless you class murder as poetry, I suppose. And this sort of thing will be quite common. Every month or so I'll probably do this. I just very much love this sort of thing. I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. I always have such great fun reading these. Tiberian suggested Casey at the Bat, that was quite good. That was quite good. But we are going to finish up. So, for those in America, I suppose, good night, sweet dreams, and, well, Hopefully this poetry will serve as a nice bedtime stories. And watch out for the G-Bone Polo Club, they're coming for you. Don't shoot albatrosses, it's a bad idea. And other than that, for the Australians, or those in Japan, I suppose, or in any of the Southeast Asian countries, morning. I hope the rest of your day is as fun as this. But I'm delaying because I like ending it at a round number of 10. But I don't think I'm going to be able to do that. Oof, 2 hours once again of stream. Many thanks. Well, many thanks for watching me. It'd be no fun if there was no one here to watch me, and, well, that was a very good suggestion with Casey at the bat. That was a very good one from Tiberian, so... Other than that, thank you all for watching. I'll be back again tomorrow. Tomorrow morning for the Americans, unfortunately, so unless you get up beforehand, you may not be able to catch that one. But I'll be back with more of these. Here I at. Hopefully I'll be able to find some of your stuff, Daniel. That'd be very nice. Listen to some of your music. On that, good night, sweet dreams, and good day. I hope it's all very well. Au revoir, ta-ta, goodbye.